Hello, good morning. This is our third take trying to go live. We're having some technical difficulties, so hopefully if you were on the previous live, you're gonna make it back to this one. My best friend and I are going live this morning talking about nourishment and somatically connected families. We are basically just mashing up our missions and gonna have a beautiful, juicy conversation about how when we heal our relationship with food internally, that then radiates out. Our body and our being becomes a transmission for that for our family, and we're able to support our family in doing the same in really aligned ways. Okay, Emily's here. I'm gonna try to add her to the live. Add. Request. Adding. It's working. We made it.
Wow.
Okay, and you're really quiet, so let me just turn up my volume here.
All right, let me know when you can hear me well.
Oh, you're super quiet. I don't have headphones in.
Your volume is all the way up, friend?
My volume's all the way up.
Weird. I have mine in, but I'm also right here too.
Right. I wonder if I put my headphones in, if that'll be better. Let me try it.
Thank you everyone for sticking with us through these initial tech difficulties today.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna run and grab my headphones to see if that helps.
Sounds good. I'm gonna settle in there,
guys. This is gonna be awesome.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to anyone who is joining. Mandy is just grabbing her headphones and should be back with us shortly. We've had a couple tech hiccups this morning. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know that, Brian. You can hear me well from that side. Hi, Vera. Vera or Vera? Want to pronounce your name correctly.
Okay, I'm back. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put my headphones in. We're gonna get the technical stuff all fixed, and then we're gonna ground ourselves.
Yes.
Okay. Say something, friend.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you so well now.
Beautiful.
It's amazing. Now all we need is for Brian or someone that's watching. Vera's here too. I just ran up and down the stairs. Oh, God. So let us know how you can hear us on the other end.
Brian confirmed that he could hear me well. So if we can hear you well, then I think we will be good.
Perfect. Yeah, my concern is like switching to the headphones might be weird.
I can hear you well on mine still. The audio changed a little bit, but it's good.
Okay, perfect. Both very well. Thanks, babe.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. That was super, super fucking dysregulating for me. So let me just take a minute to ground. Oh. I just want to take this moment too to invite anyone watching to ground with us as well. That was quite a journey you just took with us, getting on 3 lives and finally making it here. So let's all take a nice deep breath and come into presence with the live. Just want to invite you to, this live is going to be a complete and total transmission. So what I want to invite you all to do is to get deeply into your bodies. I want to invite you to quiet your mind and just receive the frequencies that are going to come through this live into your bodies. Okay, if you're present on this live, I want you to stay really connected with your body. And like, if you notice yourself start to feel things, particularly if you feel like your body needs to release, like you feel tears coming up, please pause, put your hand on your heart, allow yourself to have a release, because that is you having an integration here live with us. And that is what Emily and I are all about.
Yes.
So I want to you to set that intention for yourself. I want to invite you to set the intention to remove any distractions, to make sure your phone is silenced, to make sure if it's available, you are in sacred space with yourself while receiving this live and everything that's going to come through. And I want to invite you to drop a grounding cord from your root chakra down into the earth. Feel that cord spreading like roots into the earth. Feel your heart opening to receive. Beautiful. I am feeling grounded, present, and ready. I just want to check in with my friend here. How are you feeling, friend?
I'm feeling really good, grounded, excited. And if I may speak for a moment also on some preparation for this too, I'm just going to invite everybody to listen in a way that you've never listened before. This is a concept that I've really been sitting with lately, and maybe we'll dive into this, but like part of what I'm going to be touching on with nourishment is, we have the appetite of our body, and then we have the appetite of our mind, and we can tend to approach these types of events from the appetite of a ravenous mind, where we go in, wanting to get the thing that is going to make the change, that's going to, set us free or make it all different. And it's in that insatiable appetite of the mind that ironically, it actually closes us from being able to receive the thing that would be the transmission for things to actually change. And so if you identify as somebody who has come here and you're like on the edge of your seat, waiting for the shift to happen, one, so valid. I've been in that space a million times with trainings. That's how I know. And I want to invite you to just soften into this awareness and the knowing that every moment is a potential of a moment that could change your life. And to just reflect very briefly on, I saw little Jess, hearts from Jess. Hi, Jess. That many of the moments that have changed our life are not because we know they're coming. They're not because we're trying to get something from them. There are moments that like sneak up and happen spontaneously. They can look beautiful. They can look really painful. They can look a combination, but they happen most often, what I find, because we are deeply present with what is. So I want to just invite you to let go of any ideas of what you think you need to get from this, what you might want to get from this, and just be available to listening in the soft presence of what if this could be something that changed my life in a way that I had no idea it was coming.
Beautifully said, friend. I love you.
I love you too.
I feel like before we start, I'm inspired to share what I brought for a beverage.
Please.
Because I know you're going to love it.
I already love the way it looks.
Right? So Brian helped me make it too, which just feels so good. It is a grounding tea that we got from the farmer's market. Main ingredient, hibiscus. Made with the headwaters from Mount Shasta, with honey from Brian's father's farm.
Oh my God.
And a squeeze of organic lemon. I just want to hug it.
I can like taste the flavor in my mouth just looking at it. That color is incredible. Yeah, Katie says goosebumps. That sounds delicious. Yeah, that color is so incredible. Mine is a little combo. I made some oolong. It looks it looks like my energy. It's very earthy. It's like filled with cardamom seeds and spices and cloves. I made, right now I'm really into chai with just a couple spoonfuls of cacao in the morning. And I had drank it this morning already, not thinking about how we'd be having our tea time chat. So I dropped in a bag of oolong and steeped it with all my spices. So mine is experimental today.
I love it. You'll have to come back and comment and let us know how your body received it and
Yes.
share all the juiciness. Feels so good to be here.
I feel like I'm arriving fully in this moment now.
Yes. I'm kind of feeling like, what if we both just tap into our channels and like see where we're guided to go first? Yeah. And I want to invite interaction on this. And Emily and I will periodically check in with the comments. You know, it might not be right when you comment if we're in the flow of something, but I'd like to circle back and address comments if that feels good to you, friend.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. What if we started with like you sharing a little bit about Nourish, and then I'll share a little bit about somatically connected families, and then we'll see what arises from that place.
Yes, I would love that.
Okay.
So ground myself here for a moment because I can feel my excitement wants to just bubble up with this. So Nourish, like it sounds, is going to be largely addressing nourishment in terms of like actual food nourishment, but it's also going to be looking at how the patterns that we have with food, with eating, reflect elsewhere in the ways that we receive nourishment in our life, right? Because all of life is patterns. And so I'm going to be unpacking a lot of the patterns that we have with nourishment. And actually, I'm going to be inviting you to be unpacking your own patterns, because I think there's more potency in that, the self-revelation, when we're able to really look at these. And it's like a chick hatching out of an egg. Sometimes if you break that shell from the outside, it could actually kill that chick. And yet when you do the same breaking of the shell from the inside, here emerges new life.
And I love your analogies.
That's really the essence of this container, is like, we're going to try to crack that shell from the inside. And I really want to open your mind and your body to being able to receive nourishment in a completely different way than you ever have before, and then be able to take that map and those patterns and look at, okay, where is this playing out in the rest of my life, in my relationships, in my business, and all of these other sectors. Because once you get the map and you understand the location that you're at, the location that you're trying to get to, where you've been, the journey becomes easier. And I was so excited, Mandy, when you invited me to do this live with you, because, you know, your work more in the realm, and specifically this event of somatically connected families, are nourishment and how well we're able to resource ourselves, and specifically as the mother. And, you know, please feel free to like chime your insight into this as well when we switch here in a minute. But what I've found in my family and journey of becoming a mother is that mothers really are the leaders and the essence of the family, right? Like we talk so much about the leadership role of men in relationships. And I do think that's an essential component. It's not one or the other, like we trade those roles. But I've really found in myself that like my embodiment around nourishment, my ability to resource myself, ground into that, and then let that overflow into my family, really is the tone that sets the entire trajectory for my family. And so the embodiment of mother and how we nourish the mother, the energy in ourself, and the literal mother in you, if you are the mother in a family system, like a literal family system, not just your internal one. Or if you are, you know, the mother to your own internal child right now, and you're digging deeply into that work, changes everything, ripples out into that entire system. So these two actually feel so fundamentally intertwined with me. And like we see this mirror in the earth as well, right? Like there's a reason we say Mother Earth. It's where the core origin nourishment stems from. So that is
I feel
mother.
tears coming up as you express. Oh, it feels so good.
Yes, mother really is like a core frequency of nourishment to me.
So beautiful, friend. Yeah, it feels like a natural part to switch. Do you feel ready to switch?
I do.
And yeah, I just feel this really natural, beautiful segue into my work as you're expressing about, you know, how it radiates out into our family, especially our children. It's like our embodiment and the expression of our embodiment is what teaches our children. We don't have to teach our children.
Yes.
We have to be it. So anytime I feel like I need to manage my daughter and how she eats, like that's my signal for, okay, where am I not the transmission here, right? This doesn't mean we don't have boundaries, we don't have guidelines in the home around food. It means that that's what they are. They're guidelines. They're not control. There's spaciousness within the guidelines for our children to experiment with food and learn how they connect with nourishment so that they have the space to feel what food feels like in their body and then choose from that place what they want to put in their bodies. You know, we have a lot of conversations about, oh, like I'll be like in a curious way, I'll be like, oh, I'm so curious, is your body deciding to eat that or is it your tongue? You know, and we'll kind of have a conversation about it and just really taking all shame out of the experience of food and experimenting with food. And, you know, of course, when both parents, you're talking about leadership and how the mother's the leader, and it's so powerful when both parents are taking that role and going, okay, where am I not leading? Where is my embodiment not leading? You know, where do I, you know, I can look at Brian and go, okay, where do I need to learn from Brian and raise up in my embodiment? And then Brian can do the same. Where do I need to raise up in my embodiment around this? You know, and food is a spot we've hit a lot of triggers around. We all have patterns with food, and I'm very much still unpacking mine. I notice that it's a, you know, just like they say with the expansion cycle, you circle back to patterns and then you gain more awareness each time and more empowerment. You observe the next layer and the next layer and the next layer, and then you have more conscious choice available.
Yes.
From that place. So I'm all about, with somatically connected families, what I really am creating is a space for families to unbecome and become who they are. When every person in the home has that mindset and that availability, our children feel safe because we're unpacking all the unsafety, whether it's around food, whether it's around our relationship with anything, our relationship with each other, with food, with the pets, with the home, with everything. Everything's relationships. So
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just taking a moment to fully let that land. Thank you, friend. Yeah. This work is so, so powerful. And I think the piece that I really want to reflect on and touch in that is like this piece where you're talking about of, you know, both parents really taking up the mantle of self-leadership into the family system to be the embodiment for the child. And like as a, you know, a practitioner in health, I get asked this a lot about kids, people seeking me because their child is having, you know, expression in the body around food or sensitivity or, you know, whatever it is, whatever we label it. And the question always first for me is to the parents, not the kid, because kids are the continuation of our patterns. They are the continuation of our relationships. They are the continuation of the emotional climate of the home.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you talk about this often in your work, this piece of how what we are suppressing as the adults in the home is what's coming out through the child. Our children will always be the expression of the unconscious suppression in us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true in our food and our eating habits as well. So it's always, I have a rule for myself that it's like, I don't work with kids at this point unless I'm working with parents first. I used to do that like as a new, you know, as a newer practitioner, and also in prior iterations of my own understandings of health and the body. And that's not to say that there can't be any relief found. And, you know, there are valuable pieces at all points in the journey. But at this point, where my goal is really getting to like the depth of these patterns, not just symptom relief, it really needs to be like everyone on the family is on board together as a conscious journey together. And even if not just in children too, that can be true, you know, of your spouse or someone else living in the family home. It's really got to be a, we are in this and we are unpacking this.
Absolutely.
Rather than this is this person's problem, and you know, we have whatever else happening over here. There needs to be that synergy for it really to be a true transformation. Otherwise, it's just behavior modification and adaptation. And that's really like the bulk of what we see related to health is behavioral adaptation. It's the taking on of somebody else's rules of this is healthy, this is not, do this and you will get X result. And even, you know, I think this is a piece we don't talk about a lot, is that it's actually really easy to manipulate the body into a specific response. The question is just, what is the cost of that on the other side? Mm-hmm. And so I am interested not in behavioral modification, just of alleviating symptoms. I am interested in true freedom in health. And I think you can speak to this as well with your children. It's like, you know, and for me as a parent too, like I am not interested in getting my child to be polite, getting my child to, I just use that one as an example because it's a very socially acceptable one. I am interested in the truth of my child's expression and how do I support her safety, her unfolding, and like the realness of her expression to the truest degree in the world, and backing that fully rather than just conforming her.
And the fear that comes up in that, which is what I help support parents through, is like, you know, the projection that comes up is, oh, if I allow my child to be and express within my presence, they're going to be a narcissistic nightmare out in the world. Yes. That's where most parents go. And it's the opposite. Yeah. When we give our children a safe space to express within the home, especially unsavory expression that a lot of people outside of the home aren't able to hold, they show up kinder in the world because they have a space where they can be heard and they can express, you know. And with expression, there's definitely guidance. Age-appropriate guidance is what I help, you know, my clients through and what I practice, something I'm still practicing and embodying every day. But it's like, okay, and, you know, for me, it's like in this moment, is this a moment to guide her expression? Or is this a moment to just allow? Maybe she's attacking me. Maybe she had a really hard day and she's saying some really mean things to me right now. Sometimes I allow. And sometimes I go, okay, now's the moment to guide. Because they're learning. Yes. They're learning how to express in the world. We have to, as parents, make space in the home for that learning. And express vulnerably. Oof, when you express that way, it hurts my heart. And I can see you really need to express right now. I want to hold this for you. Yeah. So embodying our own vulnerability at the same time.
This piece feels really, really huge because it's something I think we're trained out of a lot as parents, is like we're taught to be in this role of, you know, I deliver the rules, I deliver the embodiment. It's like this I deliver, and it's an external, typically sort of penetrative energy. And, I think and you can speak more to this nuance between like, how do I hold the frame of a grounded, safe adult while also offering my child the truth of my heart and the value of that vulnerability, right? And doing this in an age appropriate way. And also, there's this nuance between, not making your child responsible for your emotions, but also being able to, as an adult, still be authentic with what you're feeling and what's alive for you in the moment with your child. Because I think so much of the pain of parenthood, it's like, I think for a lot of us, there is this like, I'm me when I'm by myself, and then there's, this is true for dads too, but I'll skew here towards moms because I think that's more the demographic that we're probably talking to, is like, then I'm me when I'm momming. And there's this sense of like a loss of part of ourself when we have to step into that mom role, and sort of there can be this unconscious expectation that like, okay, now I'm going to have to suppress while I'm here, which creates so much pressure then, and like that subtle or overt disconnection to being present with your child during that time.
And the more we heal, this is why I really advocate for the removing of layers. We have to get rid of all perfectionism, because we're all at a different part of the journey of this. And the more we clear our layers, the more we show up from a clear embodiment in the moment. So an example is like, if I'm going to say to my daughter, "Ooh, that really stung, and I can see you're mad and you need to express right now, and I want to hold this for you." Is it coming from my heart's open and I need to keep my heart open, so I'm expressing, versus I'm shutting her down? So an example of, I'm going to try to embody the shutting her down energy. It's like, "Oh, that really hurt my heart. Those things hurt." You can feel the difference.
Yeah, you can feel the
right. So, this is why my work is about holding space for parents. The more we become one with our emotional body and the nuances, the deep nuances of our emotional body and our nuanced needs, with my partner, with Brian, there's times where I'm like, I can feel slight defensiveness in you, and he hears and addresses and doesn't gaslight me. And this is what happens when we start unpacking nuanced needs, nuanced emotional needs. Okay, what triggers you into defensiveness? What triggers me into defensiveness, even in the most subtle ways?
Yes.
Because that is the thing. It's the unbecoming of these layers, and really the refining of the chakra system, clearing out all the density from the lower chakras, opening the channel. Then our channels open more often in our family home, in our dynamic with our children. And those triggers from those lower chakras aren't activated as much. So it's not about being perfect. I want to circle back to my point. It's not about being perfect. It's about, wow, when I do this work, I'm triggered less often. I'm grounded more often. I'm showing up as the connected, confident, grounded parent that can hold anything more often. And in the moments where I'm not able to hold, I can say that, I can clear something, or I can process later, and I can come into more embodiment.
Yes.
Around it.
Yeah, that self-compassion is paramount for this journey, because we're never going to do it perfectly all the time, right? Like there is, I think this work has taught me so thoroughly that there really never is a point of like arrival where you're done. And when I was able to release that, the journey becomes so much sweeter.
Yes, and softer is the word that came to.
Yeah, what was coming through for me is grace. Like there's more grace for yourself along the way. And it's not about how do I not F up? It's about how do I be with myself? Who do I become when that happens? How do I create repair internally and in my family system? And like circling this to nourishment and our nutrition as well. This piece, like what triggered this for me is when you were talking about like clearing the density from the lower chakras, opening up the upper chakras in the channel, is bringing this like to our actual physiology. You know, we talk about this in a spiritual context, but it's also a literal physical context. We know emotion through sensation. Like when you feel anger, it's because you feel a sensation in your body. When you feel sadness, it's because you feel a sensation in your body. So there's a very physical component. And anyone who has done like deep emotional clearing integration work, what I hear over and over and over again in sessions, and I'm sure Mandy, you've gotten this reflection too, is like, I feel lighter and I feel physically lighter in my body. Something opens, something moves. And I talk about this a lot as it relates to eating specifically, because, and the state in which you consume, ingest, receive nourishment, because our emotions, there is a physical component. These aren't just things existing in the field. When you feel something, you're producing a chemical, you're producing an electrical response, you're producing a magnetic response, you're producing hormones and neurotransmitters that are informing the entirety of your system for how to respond. And you change your physiology immensely with how you feel. And like when we eat something, and this is why a lot of people who, and I tend to attract a lot of people who have a ton of food reactivity and sensitivity, and like the demographic of people who have like tried everything and nothing is working, or there's a lot of unpredictability where it's like, you know, I can eat an orange today and then tomorrow it's totally different. I might be completely flared up. And a part of that is like the state in which you consume. And I remember thinking this on my own journey. There is a point where sugar was a real beast for me. And I had cut it out completely for a long time. And there was this moment where I wanted to have a donut. And I'll spare the details of the story, but there was this realization of like, oh, it's really true for me to eat this right now. And there's not a crazy craving. It's not out of addiction. It's not out of any of this like insatiability pattern. I just want this thing. And it was very neutral. And there was also the neutrality of like, I could also not have this and there wouldn't be a meltdown. Nothing would go wrong. There wouldn't be a big reaction on the other side. It was like, I'll be totally fine if I don't have this. And I want it just because I want it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I ate it. And it was like the first time that I consciously noticed having no reaction to something in my body that produced an immense reaction. And we see this in the smaller scale of like, you respond to foods differently when you've had a really stressful day and you're coming home and you're depleted versus when you're falling in love with somebody and your whole body feels a buzz and magnetic. And like these states influence how we receive food and like what we take from it and take into ourselves so hugely. And that's this other piece of like this, you know, dual, the nutrition work and the emotional family work is so important, because like if we take this in the context of a family where and I'm sure we've all experienced this at one time, like either in your childhood or in your present family, the nights where we sit down to dinner and everybody's connected and present and you're enjoying company, you're enjoying conversation, versus the nights where it's like, you know, maybe you've had an argument or there's an unspoken tension in the room, and like noticing that it completely changes the way the meal digests for you. You ate the same food. It could be wonderful, healthy food, and yet the expression might be totally different in your body.
Yes. Oh, I have something to add, friend. Can I pop in?
Please.
In our house, we keep our energy clear all the time. And we also consciously, like, I really feel like this is the true meaning of saying grace. We need to like remove the religious programming and the shoulds around, okay, we're going to be performative and say grace, because really what grace is really about is getting into your body and preparing your body to receive food.
Yes.
And I don't always do that. Obviously, I have, sometimes I'm grabbing Starbucks on the way to somewhere. But I do my best now to pause and tell my own body, we're going to receive nourishment now. It's safe to receive nourishment now. And I regulate my nervous system and I connect with my body and we choose to receive nourishment.
Yes.
And so, when we sit down as a family, we always take that moment of silence. Sometimes my daughter is like, I don't want to do that. And there's no force. It's like, okay, you start eating, but I'm going to do it. And then I let her witness, and that's a powerful transmission. And it does something for them too, even if they're not choosing to do it in that moment.
Yes.
Because our regulated nervous system showing up to the table affects their nervous system. We're feeling each other all the time.
Yes.
There's no escaping that. Sometimes I wish there was.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna just like permission to go really out there for
I love it.
I think you'll follow me on
permission granted.
Like, we often talk about, especially if you're deep in the world of personal development, spirituality, healing, these types of things, you've probably been exposed to some of these concepts of like, the superhuman and unlocking superhuman potential. And also as someone who has devoted a life to studying the body, like the sheer amount of what composes a human body, period, is like unfathomable in numbers. So like if you get a chance after this live, I won't go deep into it, but look up the number of cells in your body and bacteria, and then you break that down smaller and smaller and smaller into like your electrons compared to the rest of the universe. Like you are universes within yourself, which is like that alone is profound. And then you think about all the things we haven't unlocked in our DNA, in our brain, in the use of our abilities. And now, we used to think there were only 5 senses, and science and medicine are starting to go, well, like, wait a minute, okay, maybe there's more. And what I'm thinking when you said that is like, we think of telepathy right now, and we think of it like, we typically think of it in terms of thoughts, like reading minds. And I don't necessarily mean that, although I'm very open to the potential of that as being like a normal part of human existence. Because when you are deeply tapped in, and I don't mean thought like your egoic thought, the words, I mean the frequency of what you are thinking, right? Because every thought, every feeling produces a frequency measurably, right? Like we're already starting to parse this out in some ways scientifically. And what you're talking about is like, we're feeling all the time, but oh no, hopefully I didn't lose you, friend.
I hear you just fine.
Okay. Let me know if you stop being able to hear me. Your video froze for me, but I can still hear you.
Okay.
Like we're feeling all the time. And I really believe that we are meant to live in a state of this feeling and this interaction with each other to such a greater degree than we're experiencing right now in our current culture, climate, like all of the things with all of this programming. But like when we start to clear out those layers and we become more sensitive, we become more aware. And I don't mean just in like the empathy kind of way in like spirituality 101 communities, no hate to that, but like empathy is often posed as this like disability. Like if you are empathic, you're gonna constantly be tortured and feeling other people's stuff. And it's like, there's a lot of fear for some people, I think. And like, let me see if I can hone in on what I want to communicate here. It's like when we're in a place of clarity and ownership of our own needs, desires, frequency, and we're becoming the emission rather than just absorption of what's around us.
Ooh.
This empathy isn't like a crippling disability that you have. It's a superpower that connects you to all humans, to all beings. And like, you know, we talk about the studies where it's like plants know that their owners are coming home from hundreds of miles away. Pets will wait for you by the door when they know you're leaving work. Like, we see this mirrored in nature so much, this superpower of feeling that I really believe is actually meant to be our baseline of being human. And from that point, the telepathy that I was thinking of like, when you can feel another person's frequency, there is no more lying, right? Like, we are meant to live in a state of truth with one another. And the conclusion by which I've come to that is because we can feel one another.
Yes. Oh my God, I love the way you said that, friend. And, you know, I live with a highly empathetic and telepathic man. And so when you get two people who are, you know, telepathic, I feel you, you feel me, I hear your thoughts, you hear mine. There's moments where it feels like a curse. And the more we heal that, the more moments of beauty where it's a gift.
Yes.
And we get to receive that positive attunement. And when someone's attuned to us and they notice, it doesn't feel like a threat or an attack.
Yes. Yes.
I want to share. I feel really inspired to share because I posted yesterday that we had a trigger come up. Brian said, I knew you were going to say that. We had a moment yesterday with a sweet treat because Brian's programming came up and bumped up against my system, and I like had to field it. And then I had a projection onto him that like he wasn't going to be able to receive if I noticed it, because it was a projection from my past where I would not have been able to receive if someone noticed my food programming coming up. It would have felt like an attack, like it would have felt terrible to me. And so I was quiet about it for a bit before I brought it up. And we ended up having this beautiful exchange and healing around it. But it was like that programming of like, I said, oh, I really want to have the last piece of the lemon bars that we made. And he was like, oh, are you willing to share it with me? Because it was technically my piece. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't need the whole thing. I'd love to just have a couple bites. And his like, oh, we're doing something naughty right now programming came up around the dessert. And I felt that like just a bit of a wall go up, like, because I still have some like tension around like, oh, I've cleared that, and still there's some tension in my body around food and like not wanting to go back or slip back into old stuff. And also control patterns releasing, because I don't want to control my partner's journey, because where they're at is bringing up tension for me. So I worked through my own tension, and then I had a bath, and he came in and was like supporting me through my bath and invited me to express. And we had this beautiful moment where I just shared what came up for me. And I said, I just want you to know, if you want to unpack any of this around sugar, I'm here for you. And if there was just so much sovereignty I was able to offer because I moved through my own layers around it. So thank you for the opportunity, friend, to deepen into our connection with each other and ourselves around food, and I know you can also deeply empathize with the sugar stuff specifically.
Yes.
Um,
Oh my
I
gosh,
offered I
yes.
offered you to Brian, so just know that.
100% available. Yes, I've navigated the depths of sugar addiction. I've told this story before, but I'll share it again because I think it just like really illustrates
Also, I'd love to hear
how
it, and I want to honor your time boundary. Can you go over a little bit because it's 10:55?
I can.
Okay.
I'm thinking probably 10:55, so that'd be 11:15 for you,
Okay.
2:15 for us Eastern time zoners, 2:15, 2:20. Yeah.
Perfect. I will release that then, and then just keep an eye on the time with you.
Yes. Is this like I share the story sometimes of, when I was really in the fight of like kicking my own sugar addiction, and I was out on a date with my partner at the time, no longer current partner, and we are ordering this beautiful meal. We're at a steakhouse and we get to dessert, and I will share, like, this is a point in time when I say this was deep. Like, sugar for me at this point was not just like, oh, I'm going to eat this and I'm going to feel guilty or like beat myself up. That was there, but this was like, I'm going to eat this and there is going to be a physical reaction large enough that I will likely be going to the hospital. And yet I did this over and over and over and over again. And so we get to the end of the meal and I go to order dessert, and he lost it, like just absolutely lost it, and was like, no, we're not doing this. You're not doing this. I am not going to allow you to do this to yourself any longer. And it caused this huge fight and, all of these things. I won't go into like all the details of the conversation. But he put his foot down firmly enough, and it created enough awareness in the moment that I was able to really see the thing, and something broke open. And like the story ends for this way, like in the hotel room with me sitting in the bath, just like running the water in tears. And he told me he had like been addicted to cocaine in the past, and he was like, you are more addicted to sugar than I ever was to cocaine. I really think you need to look at this. And it was like the first time that I fully saw that. And it took, like, there was a lot of unwinding that needed to happen after. I want to be clear that it wasn't like, oh, I realized that and then it was suddenly fine and I was able to navigate this. But I share this to illustrate the degree that I think there can sometimes be a projection from people who don't struggle with sugar in this way, that like, oh, it's just a food, you should be able to stop eating it. And like, this is, a projection around weight too, is like this expectation that because you have a conscious thought about it, you should be able to just stop. And it's not always that simple. There's
so many parts of me feel seen by that.
Yeah. There are so many other emotional patterns. There are so many other physiological components to this. So I share it to just validate the depth if you are someone still really struggling with this, and to also say that like I have walked this path and I love unpacking this journey with people. So if you are struggling with sugar addiction, yes.
Yes.
In there. I know it very well.
Yes. And mine has always been like pasta and fats.
Yes.
But even pasta the carbs are sugar. It's just in a different form, right, friend?
It is. I do find there are some nuances between people who seek like sweet treats kind of sugar though, and people who are seeking more like carbohydrate, like rice, starches, potatoes, those types of things. Both differences in like the adjustments that you can make practically, nutritionally, to support your system, and also slight differences in the emotional patterns as well. But what I will say about both for some people, to just be a little bit of a key, is that if you are someone struggling with sugar addiction, your focus is going to be on energy. That is an indication that your system is in severe depletion. The body seeking sugar is a seeking of energy. And so it's actually a sign you are probably someone who, if you took those things out, would crash for like days and just rest. Or feel
Brian is loving this right now, and I know exactly why he is.
Yeah.
He literally was saying he had a download yesterday because he's been craving more sugar. I know he won't mind if I share this. He had a download yesterday. He's like, this is because I haven't been getting as good a sleep the last month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I was getting curious about some other reasons, and then he got that download, and I was like, oh, interesting. And so you're confirming it today.
Yes. And you'll find too, it's like when you think about, start noticing when you crave sugar. We crave sugar in stress. Stress is a massive use of energy in the body. It takes a ton of physiological components to produce stress hormones. And that's why, like, after a big fight or a loss, or even, not to put it out of the emotional context, like an impact car accident, after your body, like, after you make it out of the initial stress response, if you fully do, there's a period where your body wants to just crash because of the resources it used. So like, we seek sugar after stress. We seek sugar late at night if your circadian biology and rhythm is off. Like, we tend to crave those things when we're pushing up past when our body would actually naturally rest if we didn't have another agenda in the way. Any sort of seeking of sugar is a seeking of stimulation. And I'll share here actually really quickly because it feels potent. The thing that I notice is sweet treats. Like, if you're someone who's seeking like candy, soda, like the straight sugar, you tend to have, like, you need to get your system up. These are people who like need to, how do I describe this? The patterns are more, I find, where it's like you would slip more into, there's like fears around apathy, stagnation, those types of things. So it's needing to stimulate. People I see who seek more carbs and those type of things, it's a seeking of energy. There's still depletion, but it's actually a down regulation. They're seeking. Yeah.
I would use it to ground, because I'd feel like, when I would eat like a heavy pasta there'd be so much relief, and like, I'm grounded.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Now I know how to ground myself. Yes.
Yes.
I love that.
There are like these subtle nuances in there.
We have a couple comments here. Katya's commenting. Before stepping into this live, I was literally reading scientific articles about the physiology of sugar addiction, working on my thesis. This is such a synchronicity. She's like, yeah, this is supported by science. She's all fired up. I love you, Katya.
Yes.
I love that this is affirming something for you. Katie earlier said, damn, Emily, that was potent. I feel like I need to hear that again. And I don't know what she was referring to.
What it was. Katie, if you have an idea and you want to drop it, maybe we can circle back.
I just want to tap in for a second because there's just like a bit of a natural pause here. Feels like the flow has been so beautiful today once we got our technical difficulties cleared. I wonder if this is a good time to just tap in with who's watching and, what's landing for you. Do you have anything coming up you want to share and might, ignite a second round of conversation, or any questions?
I'm going to invite questions, comments, takeaways, if anything landed for you too.
We could all just do a body check-in too. How's your body feeling?
Yes.
Katie says, I'm not sure how to say it. I think it was the energetics of what happens when we eat with intention. Oh, it was right when I was talking about the chakra system, and then you took over because you were speaking to how that relates to nourishment and receiving food. And so it was something around that. I'm not sure what specifically. Yeah.
think I can probably bullet point talking just about the connection between how emotions produce an actual physiology. And Katie, you can tell me if this is not the thing that you were thinking of, and we can try to navigate back to it. But I think it might have been, oh, how food lands in the body. I can ask you later. Yes, you can. You can, if you want to drop it in the Nourishment Facebook group too as a question, I'll post a question thread in there. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is now, how food lands in the body.
Mm-hmm.
I'll trust that it will come back. Maybe we can parse this one out and I'll share it later, either as a separate live or connect it to this one somehow.
Mm-hmm. I, you know, when I prepare my body to receive whatever I'm gonna eat, I'll say something like, you know, it can be a little different each time depending on, you know, where I'm at, but you know, I now choose with my conscious free will to open every cell of my body to receive this food as nourishment for myself on all levels, something like that. I can just feel my whole body open, regardless of what it is, you guys, whether it's a conscious donut. Donuts aren't really my thing, but Emily had mentioned donuts, so I said donuts. You know, for me, it's like well, and this is shifting too, friend. Maybe I'll share my shift. How I'm receiving pasta differently. I am like, my body is no longer receiving regular pasta. Like, I actually desire like a pasta alternative, like cauliflower pasta. We've been getting a lot of cauliflower pasta in the factor meals. And so I've been eating those. And then we had a pasta dish as a family, and I felt terrible after. And just excitement around that, honestly. I'm like, wow, I can actually, like, I can enjoy the flavors of this pasta and feel amazing afterwards, not have this crash of energy. So lots of shifts over here with my pasta journey, which feels good.
Yes. I really want to I bring out this nuance too, because I know, you know, being Mandy's friend, I've had like a front seat row to like a long journey now. I mean, how many years of friendship are we going on? Your journey of food throughout that whole time, where it's like, even with clients, I don't necessarily always get to see them for that length of time. So
and you know, I'm an open book, so full permission to share anything.
Thank you, friend. Yeah, it's been incredible to witness. And what I really want to tie this back to is like why the pattern work, the emotion work is such an essential component about this, is because we place all the focus on food because it's the thing that we can control. It's the easiest thing that we have access to manipulate with our mind first before we ever touch a piece of the food itself. But like, let this be evidence that, you know, we have to ask the question at some point, like, is it the food that's a poison, or is it your mind that's turning the food into poison? Because your body, its baseline of just how it operates, it will extract the most amount of nourishment that it possibly can from anything and everything that you put into it. And I say this as someone who has been to the depths of malnourishment that, you know, that you start to access when you are like literally starving alive. You start to crave some weird shit. Like, I remember smelling fish emulsion at one point on my journey, and it's smelling good. And if you've ever smelt fish emulsion, like if you're in the gardening community, you know, it's not something you would ever consider putting in your mouth in a normal state. But that's the body. When the body is in such a state of depletion, it will try to access nourishment from any source possible. And most of us are not in that level of like starvation, like nutritional starvation in our daily life. But like, if you eat a Skittle or something, like, pick whatever thing, you know, you judge as like an unhealthy piece of food. I shouldn't have this. This is awful for me, whatever. And especially if it's something that you feel that way about, but really love and eat anyways, the truth of your body in that moment is that it is taking everything wonderful and everything good and everything beneficial it possibly can from that piece of food. And yet we're sitting there, if we've chosen to have it, judging everything that's wrong with it, everything that's bad, every way we feel about it, into the guilt spiral, into the shame spiral, into creating that physiology, this is touching on what you talked about, Katie, which produces a physiology in the body and changes how we react to that food. So that's the piece of like, your body is always extracting the greatest nourishment it can from anything and everything you put into it. Is your mind doing the same? Are you utilizing your mind to the same degree of nourishment that your body is utilizing? And if not, this isn't a place of like, let me beat myself up more because my mind is doing these bad things. It's like, oh, whoa, there's a huge disconnect between how my body is accessing nourishment through this and how my mind is accessing nourishment of this. And then it goes into this piece, which is the realm of the emotional work of like, what are these patterns of self-punishment that I have going? What are these patterns of judgment? What are these patterns of rigidity and restriction and binge and all these other components, and starting the unwinding?
Yes.
And I really want to circle this back to your world too, specifically around, you know, modeling with our kids, because you've unwound a ton of these pieces. Like, I really just want to like, hats off to Mandy in this one for navigating a lot of like really complex and tough patterning. Like your journey specifically, I would say, you know, is like to the end of above average complex to the normal person when it came to the patterning you received around food, and then having to unpack that while also leading a child. And you like, I just really want to reflect, friend, have done an incredible job of like not transferring that rigidity and that perfectionist onto your child, because oftentimes like our patterns just become our children's patterns around
Thank you, friend.
I don't know if you have anything that you want to contribute or say around that, but maybe just like a bit about what it's been like for you to navigate some of this in the realm of like, how do I do this as a mom, healing these things in front of my kid?
I love that invitation. I'd love to speak to it. So for me, it was about releasing perfectionism. Can I allow myself to be a human that is healing? The moment I released that, and I just had so much compassion for myself, I feel tears coming out. I could just be better every day, you know? And know that like none of us were given the proper programming, the proper template. So we have to, as the ones that are going first, likely if you're watching this, you're one of the ones that are going first. It's our job to anchor in that compassion, like at the deepest level, you guys, while also not making excuses for, while also taking full responsibility. You know, the problem is the perfectionism programming hijacks full responsibility. And then it just becomes another layer we need to solve. So, you know, it's about clearing out all the layers of where we had to take responsibility that wasn't ours in our childhood. Then we land in centered responsibility. So it's really an undoing. It's an undoing and a becoming of who you truly are through the release, pattern after pattern, and falling in love with the process of release.
Yes.
And I was feeling inspired as you were expressing to just talk about another pattern I cleared around food. You know, and for me, this is different for everyone. For me specifically, I am highly motivated by being the mother I want to be because it's my mission. My soul came in with this mission. So I use that as motivation for myself when it comes to clearing these patterns. And so for me, when I realized like, okay, when I eat this specific food, it affects my regulation. Yes. It affects how present I am with my daughter. And so that for anyone who wants to take that, if it resonates for you as a motivational piece for your journey, like there's nothing more important to me than being present with my child. And if I don't feel good in my body because of something I ate, I'm not fully present. And now I'm more easily dysregulated by her. I'm just irritable. And the other pattern I've unwound around this is waiting to eat. This is a serious addictive pattern of mine. It was like I loved the emotional rush of getting to a place where I'm starving and then, mowing down on something. And so now that I've unwound this pattern, when I do that again, because every once in a while I still do it, I apologize to my body. I'm like, I'm so sorry that I left you feeling like you weren't going to get food.
Yes.
Please forgive me. My body's still learning to trust me. It's like, it's a process of reconnection. So.
Absolutely. It's all of that is so beautiful, friend. Just witnessing this entire journey and like the nuance with which you're able to speak about these patterns is like some of these things are so subtle to describe. And like what you're talking about is, the connection of food affecting your regulation, your embodiment, and how you get to show up with your child. Like, yeah. And I say this as someone who is like fully believes food is meant to be an enjoyable, pleasurable experience.
Yes.
And there's this marriage between, there's the realm of like, I'm only eating because of how it tastes, like what my taste buds want to experience. And then there's the realm of like, I am only eating by what is functionally nutritious.
That was my mom. So I pendulum swung.
Yes.
And both, I eat for my tongue. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please, yeah. And both are like not the integrated middle perspective, right? The integrated middle perspective is like, it gets to be delicious. I get to love this. We're meant to love this. And I'm going to talk about this in Nourishment too. Like, this is actually a really critical piece of like activating the physiology required for digestion to occur, is like actual desire of what you're eating. And at the same time, holding this piece of, as the like responsible sovereign adult of your own body, how am I going to feel on the other side of this? Like and there is the truth, sometimes you eat it and you don't know. And like, especially if it's a new food too, like I've never had this. I don't know how it's going to go down in my body. It's not beating yourself up when we get a reaction we don't love. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to take this information on the other side. What is the truth of what my body gave me back about this food? And for me, like there was a point along my journey where when I was coming out of, because I also skewed towards the like, I'm only going to eat what my taste buds want to eat. I've done both, but like at the point of coming out of that one, that was the first one I needed to come out of. And then I pendulum swung to the opposite for a while. But there was this point at which it was like, I want to eat for how I'm going to feel. Not what's healthy, not what I've been told is the best thing. This was like when I was coming back towards the middle. Like, I don't want to eat just because this is the healthiest thing to eat, like by the metrics and the numbers. And I don't want to eat just because this is what my body's craving and it's like driven by a mind thing. How am I actually going to feel on the other side of this meal? What is going to nourish my body, my being, my mind? Like, what is this food going to create for me to think? For how I'm going to feel, for how I'm going to show up. And I'm sure you can attest to this too, friend. Is this also discernment between like, what are our genuine emotions versus like, what is hijacking of physiology from food? Like, we've all had these moments where you eat something and then you can feel the dip. And after you're like really sad or really angry and there's irritability and like there's definitely a response to food. Like that for me is I started to realize there were these areas of like, okay, I'm feeling something on the other side of this, and it happens every time I have this thing, or every time I have this thing in this way or in this quantity. So it was this realizing of like, okay, maybe this is not an emotion in the sense that we normally think of this, maybe this is a physiological response to this thing. And, you know, there are deeper things going on to look at here.
Yeah, what I want to add to that is just like, again, circling back to the releasing of all the trauma, right? Because the more we release the trauma that's created resistance to our emotions and all the shame and all the guilt, the more we actually do feel the truth of the input. And we then begin to build that trust with the physiology, because we now trust that our programming and all the bullshit is not affecting the way our, you know, the reaction, whatever that we're getting from the food.
Yes. And I would say, I'm sure you've experienced this, or at least experienced moments of it too. It becomes the difference of, there's no longer so much mental thought process around, like, I need to think of what I'm going to eat. It's more just like, I can feel this is what my body needs.
Yeah.
And for me, it comes in the form of like, oh, you know, I need something light right now. My system is feeling heavy. I need something lighter. Or like, ooh, my system is really up. I need something that's going to ground me. Let's have something that's going to bring us back down and in a little bit. And it's more driven by like sensation.
Yes.
And then also, you know, as we change our diet and whatnot, I'll just pop this in here too. Like your body is very ingrained to, or I should say your mind is very ingrained to tend to think of the most familiar thing. So it's like sugar is, I'll pop this one in because we were talking about it earlier too, is like if your only reference point for sugar is a candy bar, that's what you will think of every time. It's not necessarily that your body genuinely needs a candy bar, but it may be needing a genuine sugar, which might be a mango or a quality starch or something else. So you also have to give yourself like biological reference points for what's available too.
Yes. And for
then
those,
you will notice you crave differently.
Yes. And for those who have that like restrict binge energy still in you, just give yourself permission to have the mango this time. And then be experimental. Like there's so much tension wherever you're at in your journey, but I just felt the need to say that. So I'm just trusting that needed to be said.
Yes. All of this softly. Softly is the word that comes through. And I'll just say this again, like I'm getting an intuition that it's like, you know, we can get a lot of intellectual insight. And my sense is probably there are a lot of people who watch this live and you get a lot of intellectual insight that hasn't made it fully into embodiment yet. And there's a lot, man, you can probably attest to this too. Like there's sometimes a very long period of trial and error where we repeat something. Perry Chase refers to this as the car crash phase, where it's like you can see the wreck coming, you can see the pattern coming, and yet you can't quite stop it yet. Like it's got too much momentum to get off that hamster wheel. And I just want to say, like, if you're someone who is still in that hamster wheel where like you've had the intellectual insight, you see the pattern playing out, but you're not totally able to like extract yourself from it yet, that will come. Like the trial and error and the repetition and the experience of that pattern over again slowly starts to free you if you can be in it with that softness and with that compassion. Because there's the pattern itself, and then there's the pattern of like self-punishment in reaction to the pattern.
Yes. So get excited about a pattern interrupt of any kind.
Yes.
And just experiment with that. And the other piece I wanted to add to, friend, just around the emotional component is like, you know, when we do the deeper work, specifically inner child work, and we go back in time and we bring home parts of ourselves that needed to dissociate, we are literally no longer living up here outside of our body. And we are able to feel food. Like I always felt so frustrated because I'm like, I can't feel what food feels like in my body. And I had so much anger to process around that. And Emily held me so many times. It was so beautiful. But now I can say, I can feel what food feels like in my body. Like I actually can. You can see there's still layers of positive shock that that's even a reality I get to live in this lifetime. So just if you're in that part of the journey where you're like, how, just keep healing. Just keep integrating. One day you're gonna be like, holy shit, I can feel my body and I can feel how my body receives food.
Yeah, you have to be in the body to feel the body. And yeah, I definitely think this is a layer I experienced on my own journey too, where it was like, and so much heart too for people in a really intense healing journey, and especially if your journey includes like chronic pain of any degree. There was very much a point where it was like, it was so torturous for me to be present in my body. It felt like my consciousness lived up here, and it is that experience of like, how do I discern from my body what to do when I don't even want to be in there? So the first step is really that descent back into the body before you can feel through that. And so I will say, if you're someone who is in that realm still, where you've still got a lot of your consciousness that is not actually even in the body itself, the work may not be my kind of work yet. It may not be the body-led portion yet. The work is the emotional integration to get in your body first to be able to feel it. And I will say also, you know, if you're someone who's hearing that and are like, damn, you will find relief in that. There was an immense amount of physical healing for me that happened in that space. There was an immense amount of symptom alleviation, relief, healing that happened just from that work alone.
Beautiful, friend. We have some comments that came in. I would love to close out the live because of your timing, and then maybe we can revisit the comments and reply to them after the live. How's that feel to you?
That sounds beautiful.
Okay. Can we just take a moment to share about our events coming up, and then we'll close out?
Please, yes.
Okay. I would love to invite you to go first, if you'd like.
Thank you, friend. Yes. So the events that I have coming up, and both of these are free, by the way. I will be running Nourish. The live event itself is going to be July 6th, 11 a.m. EST. Before that, leading up to it, there's a Facebook group that is already open for you to join. I'm dropping in pre-work, like these pre-contemplations that are really designed to expose you to some of these concepts that I'm going to be talking about and teaching in Nourish. So when you arrive to the actual live event, there's not so much of that like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, my intention is to have you receive some of these breakthroughs, some of these insights beforehand. So when we get to the live event, it's an easier landing in your body and your mind, and you're not just trying to like grasp on to information. So we have a month basically of journey together for you to really unpack this in a very slow, digestible way. I would love for everyone who identified or was resonant with anything in this live to join me for Nourish and contemplate some of these things with me, how we receive nourishment, how we give nourishment to our body. This is a class I've been wanting to teach for years. It feels like the magnum opus of the basics around food in my world. And it will probably become like preliminary work for any type of one-on-one work in the future. But I'm running it for free right now because if you can nail this piece, it will eliminate so many variables for you. So please come.
Beautiful, friend. You know I'll be there. And then for those that are interested, I have my event coming up also free. It's called Somatically Connected Families. It's going to be next Saturday, June 14th at 10 a.m. PST. Replay will be available, but the way this is going to go is that there's going to be like a presentation portion. This is morphing more from a masterclass into a movement, and it's going to be an expression of my work in general and an invitation into a vortex of somatically connected families. And it's going to be a space where you and your family can be held through transformation. So the first part is going to be a presentation of the values and the concepts and the truths that this movement is led from. And then we're going to have a portion where we don't record. So the first part's going to be available on replay. And then the second portion is going to be an invitation to connect. And I really want those parents that come to be able to be really vulnerable and to be held through the depths of anything that's coming up. And my main thing that's really, really important to me is to create safe space for parents to be honest with themselves and with another person that can hold it about how they are experiencing their children. There are way too many parents trapped in isolation because there's so much shame around the subconscious shit that's coming up. And so parents feel like they have to deal with it alone. And the truth is, there isn't that many people that can hold these types of feelings that come up with our kids, you know? I'll be really honest. Like, I remember one of the biggest breakthroughs I had was a moment when my daughter was 3 years old and I felt so much anger towards her in my body. And during a process later on, I spoke out that I wanted to physically hurt her. And there was so much shame. It was so difficult for me to even say that or admit that to another person. But that is the thing that clears it. There is no way out of it. You have to express it. You have to be loved through it to overcome it. And so this is what my spaces are about. I am super passionate about creating safety for parents because I know the truth of all of you. No one wants to hurt their kids. And then when that part of us comes up, it's painful and it's scary. And when we suppress it, that's when it comes out externally on our kids. So if you want to be epically supported in your parenting journey, I highly recommend coming to this event. And we would love to hold you and to make space for you to be right where you're at and to be growing. So
I could just reflect to that and share a bit too, because it's real, right? That urge to suppress those feelings. I say this mainly because it held me through so many layers of rage and powerlessness and rage and powerlessness. But having transmuted some of that, I just want to say, like, the liberation on the other side of moving that rage is profound. Like the depth of peace and presence with which you will be able to show up with after allowing yourself to really process that in a safe environment, because it's the difference too, and like you've told me this so many times, Mandy, when you're holding me, is like expressing those feelings and these urges in a safe container with a safe person is different than just having them come out at your child, right? And they want to come out when we don't have places to move that energy. And
yes.
You know, especially as moms, they're like, I think it's a lot more socially acceptable as a dad to feel anger, but as moms, there's really this pressure to show up as like universally compassionate and eternally patient and just like holding constantly. And the truth to the fact, and like we've had conversations about this, like for context, I have a 1.5-year-old right now. It takes a lot of energy to hold a child constantly, and it's meant to, right? Like the truth is, they are meant to require this much energy from us. And so,
but we didn't receive that from our mothers, so there's resentment.
Yes, exactly. And then I lost it.
Sorry, friend.
That's okay.
I got excited.
What was I sharing here? It was related to the rage.
You were talking about how that energy wants to come out, and that if you don't let it out in safe space,
I'm gonna trust that it'll come back. I'm just gonna release the pressure from myself and hang out here for a couple more minutes. Welcome to my stream.
I hate that feeling. I hate that feeling.
I think it just the pressure to constantly be in this loving state, but it's actually, this is what it is. It's that when you are actually allowed to express that rage and, you know, these, what we would label as like not acceptable, not appropriate, not loving feelings in a contained way, that is actually what opens the well of the patience and the presence and the love that you want to access, right? And because like what you're talking about, when you don't have a template for that, it's very, very hard to be that template. And even if like, and I've experienced this so many times with my own child, and then the opposite on the other side of being held through some of these things is like the behaviors can all be right, the words can all be right, but if the energy underneath is still like the tightness and the holding, children are responding to the energy. So it's when you clear the energy that the dynamic and the actual expression gets to change. And that doesn't clear until you actually allow yourself to have the emotion, feel all the way through it, transmute it, and it clears, and then a new experience is available.
Yes.
So
because when
I
we
just
feel
back fully
yes thank you so much for sharing that, friend. And you know, it's basically what it is when you feel that anger, that level of anger, it is a suppressed tantrum from your childhood. The more you can see it as that, and that, okay, now I'm going to become the adult and let myself have this tantrum, we then open to more emotional availability for our child. It's a natural process because we've been with it inside.
Yes.
So, and, you know, frankly, when you didn't have an emotionally available childhood, you're going to experience anger over and over. Like, you better make friends with it, because as your child grows, every stage, you're going to have layers of anger coming up. It's about mastery over our own anger and complete validation of it and spaces to feel it. And you just get to liberate yourself over and over and over again.
Yes.
So.
And it gets easier. I will say that as someone who, like, I definitely resonate. It's 1,000 times easier for me to go to grief than it is to go to rage. And what I've noticed is, like, the more I allow these layers to clear, like, there was so much resistance for me before to anger because it was an emotion that felt like it got stuck. And there was, I think, this unconscious fear of like, oh, if I access this, I'm never going to get out of it. I wasn't necessarily consciously thinking that, but that's how it felt. And it was so hard to hold in my body, not being used to that, that my body just like did not want to go there. And now it's much easier and you can move it quicker. So like what used to, you know, what was initially like suppression and hours of ruminating then became like an hour-long process can now be a 5-minute process that I say, you know, to my husband, like, I really need to move through something. Like, can you be present for 10 minutes while I go to the bathroom and like process in whatever way I need to process, right? And I can move that rage quickly and easily because there's no longer resistance to it. So it's also like, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And it's no longer like it used to be like, oh, something's coming up. I need to like schedule a call. I need to set time aside. I need to have an intentional session. I'm not saying that never happens anymore, but there are more moments where it's like, oh no, I've got this. I can move it quickly. And then it's immediately on to the rest of our day. And the entire energy is shifted.
Yeah. And your body is not in a state of contraction.
Yes.
You rage, you have access to your life force again. Being angry and just letting it to move. Like when I have anger now, it's literally like, it's usually 5 or 10 minutes of just, and then it's like, ooh, my body's still open, you know, and sometimes a layer of grief will come up, but sometimes it'll just be like, rage and then a release, and it's like actually more power in my solar plexus. And then the other piece I want to add about anger, and then I know we got to go, friend, holy crap, is when you allow anger, it anchors in energetic boundaries. So you will just notice your children responding to you differently. You won't have a wall up anymore when they get angry. You'll be present and boundaried. I mean, can you feel the difference? I'm open. I'm with you. I see your anger. And sometimes I'll breathe it in. I'll be like, I'm here with you. I'm going to help you move this. You're not alone in this. I'm going to breathe your anger in and I'm going to ground it into the earth, you know? But I wouldn't have been able to access that if I didn't make complete friends with my own anger. So much cohesion happens in the family when we are one with our anger.
I'll pop in here too really quickly, you know, because I have, my daughter's much younger than yours at this point. So there's less, like with Harper, you have a little bit more room now. Like there's some conscious conversation available. Right. And with my daughter, who's 1.5, like there's not that, we're not able to have that intellectual meeting of minds yet. It's still just all energy.
Mm-hmm.
The difference too of setting a boundary when you're already pissed is such a different experience of holding a boundary firmly with solidity, not out of anger, but just out of firmness. The difference of her response is worlds apart. Like, and the times that I am like in that suppression and you set the boundary, but there's anger on the other side of the boundary, and like the response is almost always tantrum. It's energy meeting that energy. Yes. Versus when I've cleared the anger, like sometimes the boundaries change when you clear the anger, and sometimes it's just the way that we hold them changes. And now it's no longer like, all right, we need to do the thing. There's just a grounded, neutral, like we are doing the thing. And also sometimes, like there is occasionally still tantrum. Like there's still moments where I'm able to hold that boundary neutrally, and she still doesn't want to get dressed in the morning, and we still need to get dressed in the morning. And yet when we talked about this, it is the difference too for me. This is becoming a little long again, but my intuition is just pinging to share it. Like, you know, as someone who suppresses a lot of rage, I was a kid who experienced a lot of rage. And so then there's the fear as a parent now is like, I don't ever want my kid to feel how I felt. Yes. I don't ever want my anger to hurt her. And there was like confusion in there because then like when you're already pissed and I'm getting you dressed, like I'm not hurting her, I'm not being rough, but there's still, and being so sensitive, I can feel like kids are feeling that anger in our bodies. And then it's like the powerlessness to be able to respond differently, the guilt about knowing that she feels that versus the action is still the same. On the other side of clearing that energy, I still need to put her shirt on sometimes when she doesn't want to get dressed. But the level of softness and love and the internal difference of like, it is in both of our best interests for us to get ready now. And I'm doing this with love versus doing this through the anger. It's everything.
I remember when we cleared this together and you just needed to anchor in, I'm not hurting my child. That was the confusion. There was still parts of you that are like, God, am I hurting her? If she's expressing this level of emotional pain, I must be doing something. And that confusion of that, it's your inner child coming up.
Yeah, it was like I couldn't hold her anger at all.
Yeah. Yes. And something really potent happens when we are solid in our boundaries and we know we're not hurting our child, even though we're putting a shirt on them. We're doing it in the most gentle way. We're telling them we're going to do it, you know, and that hopefully that anger is cleared and not present, you know. And if you're still in the part of your journey where you're like, the anger's still there, that's okay too. You get to have your process. So
yeah. And like you so beautifully said earlier, like you get to be a human along the way. The difference is, you know, so many of us have the template where these situations happened and there was no repair from that. There was no one that circled back and was like, hey, let me take ownership for my part in this. What was that experience like for you? How could we make it different in the future? And the difference is, like, if you're someone on this journey, you have the ability to do that. I think sometimes for me, this is true. I forget how different my journey or my child's journey already is from mine, just by me even having the awareness of these things.
Yes.
So it's like you were saying earlier, it's not about doing this in perfectly in every moment. It's not about never making a mistake. It's about being able to continually meet ourselves deeper and having the skills on the other side to create that repair with your child and create a different experience moving forward.
Yes. And the other piece I want to add too is it can be really complicated when you're in this stage, friend, to create repair because the language barrier is still there. I remember hitting so many layers of powerlessness when Harper was at this stage because I was like, I can't talk to you. Like, I just want to be able to talk to you, you know? And so moving through that powerlessness was so necessary at the time. And for those that are in this stage of the journey that you're in, I just want to share like the way to create repair is to express anyway in as simple of terms as you can, and then just be a little bit better next time. You know, just keep growing and healing and doing the things you need to do to stay regulated. You know, it's a process.
It is.
And some of us have kids and then wake up, and some of us wake up and then have kids, and you know.
Yes.
So.
And some of us, the kids are the waking up.
Yes.
Right? Like they are the thing that initiates.
Mine was a little bit of both. Like I had an awakening before I became a mom, but then whoo, there was a whole nother round.
Yes. Yeah. Same.
Thank you so much for doing this with me, friend.
Likewise.
I'm sending so much love to the rest of your day. I will pop on Polo and express my concern about the rest of your day. I feel like we went over.
We did, and it feels necessary. So,
and for those of you that have commented, thank you so much. And Emily and I will be back in later to connect in the comments when we have space.
Yes, thank you everyone who took the time, your precious energy, your precious time to spend it here with us.
Yes. All right. We'll see you next time.
Love your friend.
Love you too.
Beautiful people of the internet.
Mwah. Bye.